defies.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Truth and Rhythm, brought to you by funkinstuff.net. This is the interview show that gets deep in the pocket with contemporary music's foremost masters of the groove. I'm your host, Scott Dr. Jigs Goldfine, musicologist and author of Everything's on the One, the First Guide to Funk. If you don't have your copy, get on over to Amazon and pick one up. You'll be so glad you did. Whether you're watching the video version of this at funkinstuff.net or on YouTube, or listening to the audio-only podcast version from providers like iTunes and Spotify, as always, I thank you so much for your continued interest and support in the show. Speaking of which, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Funk and Stuff channel on YouTube. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives. All kinds of goodies. You'll get early premieres, and it's all free, so make sure you sign up. Tell a friend, tell family. Also, get your official Truth and Rhythm and Funk and Stuff gear at the funkinstuff.net store. Cool stuff like I'm wearing right here. Truth and Rhythm shirts. Show your support and love of the show and also the musicians and the music that they represent. Also want to give a shout out to the Funk Exhibition Center and Hall of Fame in Dayton, Ohio, of which I'm very proud to be an official funk ambassador. Go to thefunkcenter.org to learn more and keep the funk alive. And now, with all that, it's time to get on with the show. Enjoy. Hey, for this episode, I'm delighted to welcome to the Truth and Rhythm Mothership hard rockin' and funkin' bassist, singer, composer Starr Cullars. She's released 3 albums, been associated with Parliament Funkadelic and Prince, and a few years back was a standout on VH1's Rock Camp show. Her band, the Starr Cullars Crew, has opened for top acts like the P-Funk All-Stars, Living Colour, Bernie Worrell, Maceo Parker, and Bad Brains. Cullars' latest album is the powerful 10-track set, Living Galaxy. Starr, how are you? Welcome to the program.
What's happening? What's happening, everybody? Hope everybody is good, safe, doing the best. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Getting through this crazy year like everybody else, and I'm glad to see that you seem to be relatively safe and sound, and hopefully sane too.
Trying to stay sane, and definitely staying safe, and you know, making a new way.
Where are you coming to us from today, Starr?
I'm coming from San Diego, California. So I am originally from Philadelphia, born in Colorado, in Fort Collins, Colorado. Raised in Philadelphia, East Coast child. Went to school in Pittsburgh, Duquesne University. Then, as my career demanded it, I moved further across the country as I am here now, the West Coast, San Diego, California.
How long have you been out there?
I think I've been here for about 10 years. 10 years. I went to LA first and did a number of years there, and you know, they're all trajectory of the career path from Prince to George to the show on.
Yeah, well, I look forward to getting into more details on that. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm from the West Coast myself, so I kind of went opposite of you. You know, about 10 years ago, I moved to the East from the West Coast, so I think we maybe did high fives as we were going by or something. Did the funk sign, you know?
That's cool. Now, where are you coming from?
Outside Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's probably beautiful down there.
Oh, yeah, I love it. Although it's super, super hot right now.
Oh, well.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, Starr, so glad to have you, as I said. And as you said, from Philly, I had known that. But how did that influence your musical, foundations coming from there?
I am, being from Philadelphia, of course, there's all these different bass players and whatnot. But since I was a rocker, um, there wasn't really much of that rock, but there's a lot of R&B, jazz, Stanley Clarke and Jaco Pastorius and Alphonso Johnson and, all these people, Victor Bailey and Christian McBride, it's just all these jazz people. So, and they're all amazing, of course. Christian is even a friend. But I knew as a rocker that I was just going to have to look beyond that. So my really strongest bass influences is Larry Graham, who is God, especially as far as being a singer and bass player. That's what I do too. And Geddy Lee of Rush. Okay. Geddy Lee, man, is God. Okay, so those two really, and then you can throw Sting in there, but I'll kick Sting's ass. So he's a great songwriter and singer, but he get off the bass, But I love him because he did play bass in the Police, and lead singing, So there's not many of us who do that. So as an artist, those are the people that I really look to outside of Jimi Hendrix and Prince as far as artistry. And why I went to Prince in the first place when I was in college. In my senior year at Duquesne University, I had sent out a number of demo tapes to Prince's newly formed Paisley Park. And I kept getting back the standard rejection letter from his company, which I found out, of course, later was Alan Lee's. So I, in my craziness, said, I'm going out there. I'm driving out there. I'm going to push up on Paisley Park. So I drove my senior year Christmas vacation. I went home to Philadelphia, told my father to give me $500. I'm going to Paisley Park in Minnesota to get a deal. He said, cool, don't sign anything yet. I drove with my Italian roommate, Armand Ignelzi, from Pittsburgh to Minnesota in a snowstorm in 88, 89. When we got to Paisley Park, after I crashed his house, it had a big, huge purple windmill in the back. And his guards sent me to Paisley Park from his house. He had a big purple windmill in the back of his house. Yeah, okay? And this was, during this time, 88, 89, Miles Davis was there doing all these sessions and things with him. And the new power generation, which was the new power generation, they hadn't been formally named yet. This was Levi Caesar, Dr. Fink was still there, Sheila was temporarily there, Miko Weaver, Cat Glover was a dancer. This was the band, and they were recording the Love Sexy album. And I was friends with Eric Leeds and Matt Bliston, the horn players, because they went to Duquesne. They went to Pittsburgh, Duquesne. So I became friends with them and started sending them demo tapes, but they could never get to Prince, and I got sick of it. So I drove out there. So when I pushed up on Paisley Park, I would just drive into the gates when the gates would be open, and I knew Prince's cars. He drove BMWs. He had a yellow BMW, had a dark royal purple BMW, and a black one. And sometimes the seat would be open or the car door would be open, so I would leave these notes on his car seat, on his car windshield, in his car. Dear Prince, I drove 17,000 miles to give you my demo tape. Peace and love, Starr Cullars. And I'd get thrown out the parking lot and then come back. Finally, Eric Leeds and Matt Bliston said, come on, Miles Davis is taking some kind of break. You can come into Paisley Park. I go rushing into Paisley Park with a bass on my shoulder and a bag of cassette tapes. This is before cell phones and all this digital crap, people. This is when real music or real tapes and stuff. So I just bum rushed in like, okay, I'm going to find him. I'm going to find him. And, of course, I ran right into him after 20 minutes and running around Paisley Park. And his manager, Steve Farnoli from the Purple Rain movie, the Fargnoli people, they were his managers. So they said, hey, you're that girl, Eric Leeds' friend from Pittsburgh, right? I said, yeah, yeah. They said, oh, well, you can go ahead and talk to him, honey, go ahead. Left us there in the hallway with Prince staring at me like, I'm staring at him like, you're going to take this demo tape. So I'm like, listen, my name is Starr Cullars. I drove 17,000 miles to give you my demo tape. Here's my tape. And I'm shoving it in his hand. Meanwhile, he's holding my other hand, shaking it, and he wouldn't let it go. So Prince is holding my hand, not letting it go, and I'm shoving a cassette tape in his other hand, going, you're going to take this demo tape today. He says, well, there's ways they do things. You have to give it to Alan Leeds. He's head of Paisley Park. I said, oh, really? I said, okay. I ran up the steps, snatched the tape out of his hand, go running up to the stairs of Paisley Park. He's standing there dumbfounded, like, what happened? Who is this? How did she get? But he's cracking on me at the same time. Okay, all this at the same time. Go burst into Alan Lee's office and Mr. Lee, Prince said if he don't get this demo tape tonight, he's gonna kick somebody's motherfucking ass. He goes, oh, come on in, honey, sit down. He opens up his top desk drawer. In his top desk drawer is all my demo packages. He says, is this you? I said, yeah, that's me. He said, oh, we didn't know who you were. We'll get it tonight. Next day, I get a call. It says, bring your bass. Come back to Paisley Park. You're going to audition with Prince and them tonight, 10:30. I said, all right, cool. Get my bass, get dressed. I call home to my family. My father screaming about contracts. My mother screaming about makeup. And my sister just screaming, you know. And I get off the phone. They're like, bye, family. Got to go. Go back to Paisley. Now I'm waiting. I'm in Studio A playroom, and all the band is in the other engineering booth. Sheila E., Levi Caesar, Dr. Fink, all the Miko Weaver, they all over there, right? The tech, they send me in the playroom to get my bass hooked up. So then I'm sitting there waiting for him, and I'm nervous now. After all this craziness, I got a break in the Paisley Park. Now I finally get in. Now I'm nervous. So I'm waiting for him. I'm kneeling down holding my bass. He comes in the door. He's late. He got all the notes that I wrote to him. He's reading them. Dear Prince, I drove 17,000 miles to give you my demo tape. Love, Starr Cullars. And he's looking at me. He starts walking around me in a circle going, female bass player, huh? Ooh, what's this? I'm tough on musicians. Then he looks in the glass at my roommate who drove me and said, is that your boyfriend? Then he starts walking back around me in a circle. Female bass player, huh, girl. I never had a girl bass player. Are you sleeping with him? Yeah, you know, I'm really tough on my musicians, and so I got tired of the psychodrama Gemini crap, so I stood up. Now, of course, I'm taller than him because I'm 5'9", and I have a bass, and he's 5'2", and he's, you know, big head, makeup. So he backs into the wall, goes, and looks up at me with these eyes. I said, look, man, did you listen to the demo tape? All right, I'm tired of the shit. I'm a Sagittarius. I don't have time. So he says, yes, I listened to your tape. I think you have a lot of talent. I think you have a lot of potential. I want to work with you. He takes his guitar, puts on his guitar, looks at me, says it's in B flat, and starts playing. I jump in, start playing. Sheila E. comes in, she sits there behind the drum, she starts playing. Dr. Fink comes in, he starts playing. I'm playing with my heroes, and I'm tripping. I'm like 18, 19 years old. I'm not even legal to drink. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So he's tripping. He's like, what? You can play? He's going in and out. He's on his knees. He's diving around. What? You a girl? You can play, man? Tripping. And I'm like, oh, my God. She was going, just keep playing. Rock with me. Rock with me. Finally, a tech comes in the room and says, Prince, Miles Davis is stuck at the airport. He needs you. Prince throws his guitar in the air. The tech catches it out of nowhere. Prince runs out. Sheila runs out. Faith runs out. I'm standing against the wall like, right? Sheila comes back in and says, listen, Prince said he's really impressed with you. He wants us to keep playing with you. Come on, let's keep playing. I'm like, all right, cool. We keep playing some of my music. I'm too young to realize they're probably recording it, right? We finished. Sit down. She goes, come on, let's sit down and talk. So we sitting there talking about being female musicians, and, you know, she lets me know that she could never do what I did because she's never had to audition before in her life. Sheila Escovedo told me that she's never had to audition before in her life, and she could never, ever do what I did in front of them just now, and how impressed they all are, and how impressed Prince is, how he's sure he's going to call me tomorrow. She gives me her number. I'm like, all right, cool. I got a call the next day because I'm staying at a boarding house at the University of Minnesota. Can't afford a hotel. Okay. So I'm staying at the boarding house, University of Minnesota, and I'm sitting on top of the phone. The phone rings. It's Prince. Hello, hi. I just want to thank you and tell you that I'm really impressed with you, and I want to work with you, and I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But you can stay here with me while I finish Love Sexy, and then I will go out on the road and come back. And I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but I'm really impressed. I said, no, thank you so much. You know, I'm blah, blah, blah. So I said, you know, I was young, but I knew that I didn't want to be one of his concubines in the wings, waiting, you know what I mean? And I already knew what was going on that way, even though I was young. So I told him I would go back to school, finish. When he finished his Love Sexy tour, let's get back together. Well, during that year and a half or two, I got hired by George Clinton in the Parliament Funkadelic and became the only female musician member of the group. And guess what? George Clinton was signed to Prince's Paisley Park label when I joined. So I tell George the story. George goes, oh no, you Funkadelic, fuck that. We're going back to Paisley Park. Yeah, we're going to see him. I said, George, I don't know if he's going to remember me. He's like, girl, you crazy. He's going to definitely remember you. Come on, let's go. Sure enough, we finished our little P-Funk run, my first European tour. We come back to the States. We go straight to Minneapolis to go do some Paisley Park event. Everybody's tripping that Parliament Funkadelic is in the house. Everybody in Prince's whole thing, it worships the P-Funk. So the P-Funk's walking around like, George walking around like King George, like, yeah, right? Gary Shader, all of us. Everybody's running behind George. George and Prince finally see each other. Hey, man, hey, how you doing? Yeah. Prince looks over George's shoulder. Starr Cullars, what are you doing here with George and them and Prince? Everybody in the P-Funk turns around and looks at me and goes, how do you know Prince? George Clinton and Gary Shader are the only ones who go, yeah, she Funkadelic. You can't have it. You can't have it. Come on, baby, come on. And everybody starts following George to Paisley Park, and then we continue on. And then for the next 2 years, Prince came out to P-Funk shows trying to get me, Michael Hampton, Belita, to leave to come do something with him. George wouldn't let us go. Now, mind you, I could have probably gone and did whatever little project. It wouldn't have been any more than a year. And I would have had another establishment with my mentor. But the old king and the funk mob are like the mob. So they weren't having that. You know what I mean? Especially if you had any kind of, valuable talent. You know what I mean? They were like, so that's my professional beginnings with my mentor superstars. And
wow, that's
right?
That's an amazing story, Starr. Thanks for recounting it so vividly. That was awesome. Whatever like gave you the gumption and nerve, do you think, in your upbringing to go do something like that?
I would say my dad probably be the biggest influence. My late father was a science professor, an athlete. He was a semi-pro tennis captain. He was a skier. He skied, snow skied. We were the only black people skiing in the 70s. My father had a ski club called the Gliders Ski Club. And, I had friends of mine who were like, Starr, you realize that your father's like the deepest black man I've ever met. He was like pre Barack Obama, before, you know what I mean? He was that kind of man, a leader, just, unique. And since he had this little girl, he instilled in me, well, you can do anything that these guys can do, which is why I do all the stuff I do today. It's all male oriented, male dominated, and I would have to say him for sure.
So were you a tomboy?
Oh my God. Oh my God. I used to do tag football, all right, softball, hockey, field hockey, basketball, track, swim. I was a junior lifeguard. Plus, I used to get out in the street and just kick the guy's ass. It's just, dodge ball or just kick their ass. And, So, yeah, for sure. For sure.
And what do you think inspired you to gravitate towards hard rock?
That's a good one. I would have to say again, my father, my uncle, my mother's brother had a very eclectic sound, music taste. He listened to a lot of rock radio and pop radio. And then my dad had like Santana albums, he had Jimi Hendrix albums, and Rolling Stone albums, and in between like the Miles Davis and the Santana and the Earth, Wind and Fire and Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, So I think I got turned on to that stuff from his early stuff, and then when I dove in, I would say that's when Prince also came out in the late 70s, early 80s, and he became my god, right? And between that and then just kind of jumping into like Aerosmith and Rush and going back to Cream and the Led Zeppelin stuff when they were really kicking ass, and the Black Sabbath stuff before Ozzy left, would lay that rock thing for me. Yes, a lot of yes listening, and then being in Philly at the time, I was around, like I said, a lot of musicians, even though none of them were rock musicians, they still were musicians who would listen, some of them. So I got turned on that way, and then I just dove in myself. It's like, well, I'm in here, and if it's me and Jimi Hendrix and Lenny Kravitz and Living Colour, well, then that's what it is. And Fishbone, you know what I mean? Then that's what it is,
Were you aware of the Black Rock Coalition and that whole movement back then, like the mid to late 80s?
Not until later, because I'm still like in school, and it wasn't until later, I would say around the same time that I was being hired by P-Funk. That's when I was really learning about the Black Rock Coalition, and wondering what's going on.
How familiar were you with, Funkadelic and P-Funk's material before you connected with them?
Growing up again in Philadelphia, there was a radio station and a DJ named Georgie Woods, and a radio station there, WDAX, FM and AM. And they played Parliament and Funkadelic, the hits, round the clock on the radio. So that's how I learned, from the radio. The song, whatever songs they had at the time. So if that was Tear the Roof Off and Knee Deep and One Nation, those ones that were getting played on black radio, that's how I learned.
But so you probably didn't know that they had such a ferocious rock side at first, right?
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I didn't discover that until I was in college, and it was like, wait a minute, hey, Funkadelic gets real. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. How come they didn't push this? How come, so then I dove into them. Of course, when I meet them and learn all the history, and being in P-Funk was like being in grad school, because it's decades of material, of decades of people, is different. You know what I mean? It's a whole educational system, and you got to know the eras and the people and the music and the time and this and that. So I learned all of that when I got into P-Funk, and it was literally I was in grad school getting taught by Boogie Mosan directly, getting taught by Gary Scheider directly. You know what I'm saying? So it was deep.
Legends,
Deep.
right? All of them at this point.
Mhm. Yeah.
What was your impression of some of those characters, like early on? When you first met George, say, and you met Gary and some of these characters that not all of them are with us anymore, unfortunately. But Bernie Worrell, I don't know if you got to meet him also. But what struck you about those characters?
Well, just the fact that they were able to create not just good music and not just groovy music, but like legendary epic funk classic music, and bring some levity, bring some character, some humor with so the heavy messages aren't so heavy. You know what I mean? It's more like a celebration. This is a party, and then if you listen and you dig in, then you hear how deep this is, or you listen to different songs on the albums that aren't the radio cuts and go, oh, So when they were in that creative space with those people, and I'll tell you who I did get to meet. I will run it down. I have met and spent time with Bernie Worrell, Billy Bass Nelson. I have met Fuzzy Haskins. I have met Calvin Simon. I got to work with Ray Davis and Gary Grady Thompson before Ray passed when they came back to P-Funk. I know Bootsy, Maceo, Fred, Mudbone, Frankie, Peanut. That's the Third Rubber Band people. Then for the P-Funk, the rest, I said Gary Scheider, Boogie Moosong, Blackbird, Michael Hampton. Of course, Lodge Mermaid, Cliphand, Mudbone Cooper, and saying him again. Greg Boyer, Greg Thomas, Benny Cowan, genius. Benny Cowan's a genius. Who am I? Oh, the women I met before they passed, and Belita was like my mother, my funk mother on the road, because Belita and I were out there together. So Belita Woods, Malia Franklin. I performed in Malia Franklin's band for like a whole summer and fall. Okay, her solo band, yeah, and toured with her. It's awesome. Dawn Silva is a big sister and a friend of mine to this day. I have mentioned that. Knew Sheila briefly. The other ones I haven't met, and let me see who I met. Jessica Cleves, and what other women? And then there's some wives, that I know. So those are the people that I actually have got to meet or have relationships with.
What stood out to you as George's unique something special? And as we record this, it'll be a few weeks before it airs, but it is George Clinton's birthday today.
Clinton's birthday.
Happy birthday, George.
Happy birthday, George, Uncle G. Bon anniversaire. Mwah. Yeah, today's his birthday for sure. So he's in Florida. What is that little town called?
Tallahassee?
Uh, Thank you.
Yeah.
he's, he's outside of. Actually, he's outside of Tallahassee, some little town even smaller, and a beautiful place. He and his wife, I think they might have one or two grandkids come through. Her daughter there, but yeah, he's there, posting everywhere. And it's his birthday.
How awesome is it that he's still doing what he does, you know?
We should all hope that we all live that long and still able to do what we're doing, right?
Yeah, yeah. And still, you know, have that fire,
Exactly.
you know?
That's definitely something that I really learned from and I really admire from Uncle George for sure is that persevering fire, that persevering longevity. That is amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll roll with anything at any time.
Well, just like I said, to still be here vibrantly at that age. I mean, look how many people that we've lost that are much younger. Prince, my mentor, gone way too soon and way too tragically. So it's a blessing that he's still here and still going and putting up pictures of himself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but there's his stuff over there.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. That looks like press room.
What do you remember your first time on stage playing with them, and the adrenaline I'm sure was going through your body?
Yeah, this is 93. This is before we do Lollapalooza in 94, and I'm already out in the band on the road as an assistant manager to Archie Ivy, the head manager, and Derek Drisdell, who was the road manager. I'm managing. I'm paying people, okay? I'm doing money, I'm doing flights. I mean, I'm having to learn all this music that George and Gary and Boogie and them are throwing at me, right? So there's two things going on for me. About 9 months into me being out there, all of a sudden, Live Starr goes here, takes the bass, go ahead, go out there and do Red Hot. Said, all right, put it on, strapped it up. I was like, come on, Kenny, talk to the tech. We're going to do this right now. Mind you, Gary Scheider, Mudbone Cooper, George Clinton, Peanut Johnson, they're all up, Clip Payne, they're all up front, doing the show. They have no idea what's going on at the back line, right? So I'm ready. So Michael goes into right? All of a sudden, I come in and I'm fucking playing this shit. I'm like, all right, I'm in here. George turns around, Gary turns around, Clip, they all turn around and go. See that I'm holding it, see that I'm playing it and know it, and go into Starr Cullars on the bass and Funkadelic. Now I'm part of the show. Now George is coming back with the microphone and the bass amp. Right? Me and Michael up front now. Alright? Now it's a whole, I'm part of the show. Now I get to start ending the show. After that, the Red Hot Mama, we just go into the rest of the Funkadelic rock catalog. Right? And it, for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes sometimes, 45 minutes, me, Michael, who Clip, if Gary would be out there until he would leave, George would be gone. Be like, they got it. We would just feed. So that happened, I think, in Tennessee.
So
First time.
And you hadn't rehearsed with them really? You just went on stage?
You have to understand, I am already rehearsing
On your own.
on this, on my own, on the buses in my lessons with them, with
Hmm.
Boogie and Gary, backstage at the sound checks. You understand? I'm
Yeah.
all so it was just like go, okay? You ready or you're not? And so I was ready. So that's how it happened. Very, very, very scary. Not many people would would do that, and especially to have the leaders turn around on stage and go,
Double take, yeah.
because nothing wasn't planned. My coaches are standing on the sidelines, and Bird's on stage, and Gary gets up in front of me, and it was a trip for sure. But once they saw, like, oh yeah, she got it, and she's one of us. It was on. It's like that was it. So yeah, very very treacherous, treacherous one.
Sink or swim, man. Sink or swim.
That's right.
Uh, was Red Hot Mama your favorite track to play with them, or was there a different one that you liked the best?
It became one of mine, obviously as a signature. But I did have a few other ones that I particularly liked. Alice and My Fantasies, and all funkadelic. Just a few other ones. But Red Hot is so great because it universally captures people across genres. Like even your most staunch R&B person will kind of like get it, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then it'll satisfy your rock people, and your people who are craving something else. So it's a good one that it encapsulates so many people, within the simplicity of the word.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And not so simple. Actually, none of the songs are really that simple at all. you know, they're actually way more complicated than they sound, and that's where the learning and the schooling comes in with the material. So a lot of people think, well, I'm a great musician. I play all this other stuff, but you can't play this stuff unless you're taught and learn it, because it is uh, complicated and special that way.
Also, the feel and attitude. I mean,
Oh yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And the empty spaces, just all of it,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. That's right. That's right.
So, what was your relationship or connection with Lige? What's the history there?
That totally came within the group. Literally, when I was hired, we became friends and realized that I needed a producer, and he needed an artist who would let him become the producer that he is now. So that's how that started.
So, did you learn anything bass wise from him, or vice versa? Or
I think I learned, yeah, I mean, I definitely learned something, yeah, without question. Learned a lot from him, learned a lot from Ski, learned from Boogie, learned from Billy, and Bootzilla, you know what I mean? But I would say, yeah, definitely, I got to really, zone into things that Roger's doing live and in studio recordings, yeah, for sure.
and so, why did you end up, going your own way and not continuing on with P Funk?
Well, which I'm going to cover in a documentary on the P-Funk ladies and the untold story of the ladies of the P-Funk. I will just say in short that it is a very much a male-dominated group, very misogynistic and not pro-female anything at all. So what I did in there will never ever be done again, even if the group lived to be 1,000 years old, because it's not that kind of group. And you would have to be a warrior Amazon like me to break through. Period. All the female singers, all the ladies that I named to you earlier, and some of the ones that I haven't, all gave their lives, their blood, their talent, their beauty, and were summarily dogged, dismissed, and disrespected. So it's not an organization for women that way. Women in this group are used as background singers and background. What I did was unheard of and didn't last because either you were going to break through do what I wanted or I had to get out and do my own thing, which is what I did because I'm a leader. I'm a songwriter and a band leader, and I wasn't going to be summarily dismissed like a background singer. I'll fight you. So that's what I had.
We saw some of that in that documentary Tear the Roof Off. I don't know if you saw that. Came
Yeah,
out last year.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I guess that
yeah,
touched on some of that stuff.
yeah.
So, well, that's unfortunate to say the least. But
That's what it is. That's what it is.
were you surprised, or what did you think when Prince eventually ended up having some female bass players? You know, Rhonda Smith came on. And, you know, they were very different from your style. But then
You know,
Ida
Rhonda,
Nielsen and
I love Rhonda. She's a great jazz player and a great side jazz player. She's awesome. I knew that he finally um, trusted enough to allow a female to play. See, once I told him no, I was an artist. I'm an artist, just like him. So he knew he can't have another artist. You got to have somebody who's going to be a side per, a background per, a side per. So that's when Rhonda came in. It was perfect, and even that last one. But you know, um, she's come on. Jeff Beck is lucky. You know what I mean? He's lucky, 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 lucky. You better hold on to it. You know what I mean? So I was glad. I was glad to see that the seed I planted as a kid blossomed into that.
yeah, you're ahead of your time, right?
And literally a child breaking through, you know, just like, you know, like I said, I couldn't even drink yet. I wasn't even legal. So that's how young. So, you know, you just, at that point, when you're doing stuff like that, you're just going on that crazy adrenaline and drive that's in you. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
you think back later, like, seeing her later, definitely I was glad that I was crazy enough to do what I did because I know it completely paved the way for her to come through, that you know later, and so that was cool for sure.
definitely. All credit to you, Star. You did appear on some P-Funk records, right?
Yes.
So I have a
Uh,
few here
oh,
that I saw on your credits. Hopefully they're right.
okay.
Let's see if they are. I'm going to change cameras here so we can see them. Um, that one.
Oh yeah. Oh, Andre Fox. Oh my God. Wow.
He was just on the show. It hasn't aired yet, but yeah, he did the show recently. So
Dre, man. Dre is a gifted, artistic brother. I was so glad that he decided to go ahead and launch himself. You know, he was way too much of a character to be, you know, trying to be part of the lineup. It's like, man, you need to go and be you. So yeah, I was glad to, you know, help him any kind of way.
do you remember how many tracks you're on, or what track, or?
I don't know what he included. I remember doing those sessions too, but I don't know what he included or what made the editing floor, you know.
Right. What about? I saw this one.
Oh yeah, yeah, one of my favorites. That's one of my favorites because that's when you know that's when you went back to the I'm gonna be a spoken word poet, but I'm gonna have this new. We love that stuff. Love that. I would like to see it. Like to see the band go back to doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, that was definitely, probably, possibly the most funkadelic-y
Right.
release they did that decade. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And then, well, this one isn't P-Funk, but it was with.
Oh yeah. Right. Right.
You better look at that one.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm
Elijah's.
on. Yeah. I'm on a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the main ones that my name isn't credited on that I'm singing all over is the Tacolophone record.
Oh yeah.
I'm all over that, and the reason my name isn't in the credits is because I was being pursued a Sony 550 at the same time, and George was signed to Sony 550 at that time, and some nonsense with their A&R people and him, and my name did not get put on that album, and I was paid checks from the company for singing on that album. I'm on at least 5 or 6 songs on that album.
That album to me is, I think, the most Parliament-like album since like the Glory days. I mean, that's a great record.